Hey Cass, so if you understand everything I just went over with confidentiality, we can start our session. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay, so what brings you in today?
So I've just been feeling a little bit anxious about my entire life because I'm really stressed out right now because I'm in the second semester of my program and I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to find a placement. Everyone in my class is talking about their placements and they found a placement and they've had interviews and I haven't been successful yet in like getting past the interview stage. So I'm feeling like really nervous, and then I'm also kind of worried too because like if I don't get a placement, I'm scared that I won't have a job after this program, and like having a placement is the main reason like why I took this program.
So basically, you're feeling like kind of overwhelmed right now because people in your class are finding placements and you've gone to interviews, which is amazing. Just getting selected for an interview is like really good experience and it's a step in the right direction for sure. But you're worried you might not get a placement and then you're wondering how it's going to affect your future. I think that's completely normal to have those worries that you're experiencing right now. I feel like a lot of people in your class probably feel the same way as you right now.
Yeah, like I think you're right because like well maybe like not everyone in my class has a placement, but a lot of people do. But I'm just like kind of worried because like even when I was in university in my final year, I thought I was gonna like have a degree and like have a good job, and I ended up working this really kind of like crappy job for a year that gave me a lot of like stress and anxiety. So I'm just like even like kind of crawling out of like that, and then also too like now just like being put back in this like same position. I just like hope that I can have a good job after, but I'm scared that I won't just because everything with placement has been so confusing. The placement coordinator doesn't really like describe what to do properly, so I just
Oh no.
feel like I'm kind of like floating, like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that definitely sounds stressful. I can understand where you're coming from, but it's awesome that you have a university degree. That's something to be proud of. So you were briefly discussing with me that you had kind of a rough experience before with working at the paint store previously. So that brought you a lot of anxiety and stress, and
Yeah.
you're currently feeling anxious,
Yeah.
depressed.
I
or-
feel like it just kind of never went away. Like
Mhm.
it just like lingered. Like I was just working so many hours. I was like so overworked, tired. I was barely eating. I was probably like the skinniest I've been.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, and like I would have a lot of like muscle tension.
So when you experience anxiety, you feel it in your body? You feel those bodily sensations?
Yeah, I sweat a lot. I have like muscle tension. Sometimes I just like I can't get to sleep at night because I'm like thinking about the future and like what am I gonna do, because like I don't want to have to like go through this program and then end up back working a job like how I had in like my year off after university.
Yeah, so when you start like having those like negative feedback loops thinking about the future and also thinking about the past, you start feeling like you don't really feel like eating, you have a hard time falling asleep, stuff like that. Oh, that's I'm sorry to hear that, but we're gonna work on that today. So tell me more about your life right now. So you told me you're a student, you're trying to apply for placement. Do you also have a job right now that you're working with? Are you able to see your friends, your family? Like, what else is going on with you that's making you?
Yeah, so I have really good like I have a really good like support network. My mom, I'm really close with my mom and my boyfriend. They've always kind of been there to like reel me back in when I'm like starting to feel negative or like bad about life. But I feel like it's also like a lot for me to put on them all the time because like they both have their own lives and it's like a lot of stress, and I don't want to feel like I'm always like a Debbie Downer whenever I'm around them, because like I don't want that to impact our relationships, because like obviously they have enough stress, like I don't want to add to that. So that's like kind of why I'm here. And then also too, work right now, it's good, but it is sometimes emotionally draining. I work as an access facilitator at the Durham Children's Aid Society.
Wow, that's a really nice job. Good for you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just like sometimes like it can be emotional when you see like, because I have to like supervise visits between like caregivers and their children. So sometimes if the visits aren't like going well, there's like tears, people are upset because like their family is obviously, they cannot live together due to the situation that has gone on. But so I do that, but I only work twice a week, so it's not bad. And then school has been just more stressful this semester with placement. I've found I liked last semester better.
Yeah.
So it's just like right now I just feel like kind of stressed, and like I have to drive a lot to like get here, or like just to go anywhere really. So just really, yeah.
So basically what you just told me is you have very close relationships with your mom and your boyfriend, but you don't want to appear like you're negative or worried all the time. So you're kind of worried about how your anxieties are affecting those relationships, and also that you have other stressors in your life, because it seems like you're very busy but very hardworking, so that's really good. So you came here today basically because you're feeling anxious about the future, about placement, but the main thought that's causing you the most anxiety is you're worried for your future. Is that correct? Am I summarizing everything correctly? Okay, so I'm going to work on you using cognitive behavioral therapy. Have you heard of CBT before?
No.
No? Okay, so basically cognitive behavioral therapy is perfect for helping individuals who are struggling with anxiety, such as yourself. So what CBT is perfect for is helping people such as yourself recognize that it's not the event, such as like where you're worried about if you're going to find placement or you're not getting callbacks yet. It's not those events that bring us anxiety, it's our interpretations of those events and how our thoughts and emotions kind of come together and can cause us like access anxiety or maladaptive thoughts. But today we're going to work on kind of attacking those thoughts and challenging them and breaking them apart so that you can move forward and not feel anxious and have those like bodily sensations and not being able to sleep. So from now our goal is I'm going to show you some sheets and we're going to go through them together, okay?
Okay.
So part of CBT involves thought distortions. So your thought distortion, one of them that I can think of, is just how you're explaining how you're worried about the future and that you're not going to have a job. Am I correct with what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or just, yeah, like a job that I just won't like and that I'll feel overworked and like it'll just like stress me out and I won't be able to like perform well if I even have a job. It's just like spirals out of control.
So with those spirals specifically, I would say that sometimes you would be possessing the distortion of catastrophizing. So that is like when you blow things out of proportion or inappropriately shrinking something to make it less important. But it seems like you are kind of sometimes forgetting like all the good that you have going on, like all these positives that are ultimately going to contribute to you having like an overall very good life, and you're just stressed that things aren't going to work out. Is there any other distortions here that you can think you relate to? Kind of I would say
maybe like all or nothing thinking, I guess, because I'm kind of like on one hand, like I can either have it all or I will have like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I feel right now. I just feel like like right now it's just a hard time where I don't really have like anything to show for like all this like work and dedication to like gaining experience and like education. I just kind of like that, or maybe
Exactly. Like I think I'm gonna give you a copy of this sheet. I think the sheet is really important because you can use it as a tool yourself. If you're ever overthinking or feeling anxious, you can refer to this because it helps you realize when you're having like a maladaptive thought pattern and then how you can tackle that. So what you just did right there is perfect. And it's a step in the right direction for sure. So, sorry, I'm going to show you another part of CBT, which is the ABC model. So, the ABC model involves the activating event, beliefs, and then the consequences that come from the activating event and the beliefs. So, the activating event is which prompts or triggers you to create a certain interpretation. And then the beliefs is your beliefs that you have from the event. So that's like the story or interpretation that comes from the activating event. So when we're discussing the activating event, you can also think of the term like antecedents or trigger, and then beliefs, and then, so, okay. Let's discuss what you think your activating event would be if I explain that. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yeah. So I guess like it would just be, I don't know, I feel like I'm reminded of it like every time I like come to school or like people are talking about placement. So just like thoughts about placement.
So placement is what triggers you? Okay. And then what are your beliefs that arise from that situation?
I guess that I like won't have a placement, and then that will mean that I won't get a job in the future after, or that like maybe they won't like me at my placement if I do get one. So there's just like a lot of thoughts behind the placement, and just I guess the main one would just be like not having one, or like getting one and like not liking it.
Okay, so when we were discussing earlier, you brought up a few of the consequences that you feel. Can you remember any of the emotional or behavioral consequences you were telling me about?
I guess like sometimes I'll like cry on my way home from school, or like maybe in the evening if I'm feeling like sad about it, or like sometimes I'll just like go off on a tangent. I'll like rant to like my mom or my boyfriend, and like they kind of like take a step back because I'm like so intense about it, and then like I just like tension, stress. I don't sleep sometimes. I don't maybe eat as much as I should.
Okay, perfect. It seems like you're really understanding the ABC model. So to take it back now to the sheet what I was talking about earlier, now that you kind of understand like the process that goes along with CBT, I think we can go through challenging the upsetting event that you're experiencing with placement. So using this sheet, so the upsetting event would be like people in class talking about placement. So can you relate to any of these emotions that are listed on the page?
Probably all of them.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, that's completely normal. Don't worry. So, what would you rate your, on a scale of 0 to 100, how you connect to frustration, for example?
So I guess like maybe frustration would be like a 90, because like I've
90?
I've gone for like interviews, I just like haven't heard back yet, so like that's frustrating. And just it's even like frustrating to have to go through my placement officer to like have access to the placements that I want, and then just like it's not as like instantaneous as I would like it to be. Like I like when I'm sending these things away, I'm kind of like, oh, I want to hear back like within this week, but I just don't really like have a way of like finding out unless it's through her. So definitely 90.
Okay, what about anxiety, worry, or panic?
Probably like 110%.
Oh, so you really
Yeah.
connect with those thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what about hopelessness?
I guess like I would say maybe like a 70.
70? Okay. So, I'm also gonna give this, like, copies of this to you to do for homework. But, so what this sheet involves is writing down each of your negative thoughts and then rating it like what we were doing here. So, let's start off with the thought that you're not going to find a placement. So, do you remember which of the cognitive distortions you connected with that thought?
Probably like catastrophizing. I would say jumping to conclusions. And then I guess like maybe like should and like musts. I'm like, I should have this, like I must have this.
All right, perfect. I like how you recognize that with maladaptive thought, it's not just one distortion. Sometimes there's one, or there could be multiple. So perfect that you can recognize that. So now what we're going to work on is modifying your statement and providing a rational response to that thought. Here we're trying to challenge that thought and manipulate it. So how can we do that? Do you have any responses to your maladaptive thought?
I guess like sometimes
To kind of like rewrite it?
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you?
Yeah, totally. I guess when I think about not getting a placement, kind of sometimes I'll counter those thoughts by thinking, well, the school is here to help me. Like if I don't get a placement, like they'll be able to have connections and like just place me somewhere regardless of like interviewing or that. So I kind of just think like that there's hope that that like I'll be able to get one. And then also too, like I've went for interviews, I just like haven't heard back, so like I might have one, I'm just like not sure right now. So it's just kind of like that uncertainty that makes me feel worried. But yeah, like
so basically to provide a rational response, what you're doing is perfect, like recognizing like it's still early, you haven't heard back yet, so who knows, you probably could have already got accepted for one placement. That's perfect. So after this little discussion, do you feel a little bit better about that thought? Like would you say that you believe that less now, your first automatic thought? Do you feel a little bit more hopeful?
yeah, I feel like it kind of like puts things into a different perspective and kind of balances it out. I don't feel as overwhelmed by the thought of like not getting a placement, just because like I'm like obviously I'm working hard to like try and figure it out and like do interviews and like email places and apply like all over Durham. So I'm kind of like I know that I'm working hard, and like if I keep doing this, that like something will come of it, because I've worked hard in the past and like I have things to show for that. So I just kind of trying to remind myself, I guess, and be more positive, because sometimes once I start thinking negative, I can't stop. It's just like I worry about everything.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like whenever you're having those automatic thoughts, what you just did with like the positive self-talk, the self-acceptance, those are both like very helpful to remember. Like you're hardworking, all the good things you have going on in your life, those thoughts are very key. So to summarize what we've gone through in this session so far, so you came into my office claiming that you're like feeling extremely anxious, you're having like bodily sensations that related to that, and you had the distortion that you're not going to have like a good job in the future, a career that you want. And we've gone through the ABC model and we've gone through the sheet. Is everything okay so far? Do you have any questions about the model or anything?
I guess like I was just wondering about the homework component.
Yes, it's funny that you mentioned that because homework is a very key part of CBT. So along with this that I'm going to give you for homework, you don't have to fill it out, but I do recommend the distortion sheet for when you're experiencing any anxiety with any event. But there's also the CBT thought record, which I'm going to provide you with different copies for homework. So to go through the CBT thought record, it involves these different categories. So it goes through where were you when you experienced the negative thought or emotion or feeling. And then emotion is the next category. The negative automatic thought, evidence that supports the thought, that does not support the thought, alternative thought, and then your emotion or feeling. So would you like to go through an example right now, or?
We can if you want, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So since we kind of already discussed the placement situation, let's talk about when you feel like you're not going to have a good job. So
I guess like I usually think about that too, like a couple times a week. But yeah, usually it'll be like when I'm out, and then I'll feel like,
so like when you're out with
like either like my mom or my boyfriend or just like even by myself, like if I just like go to the mall
Yeah.
or just kind of like out in public spaces, it'll just kind of hit me out of nowhere, and then I'll feel kind of panicked, and then like I'll just feel like I need to like get home just because I'm like freaked out. And then I just think like I'm like, and then I start like breathing really heavy, and then I like start sweating, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I don't know what I'm gonna do with the future, and I don't have a bad job.
So those are your negative automatic
Yeah.
thoughts. Okay, do you have evidence that supports the thought?
Then I was like, well, I had a bad job before, and it really stressed me out and like would give me panic attacks, and like I don't want that to like come back. So it's just kind of like just being put.
So the evidence that supports the thought is your previous job that caused you a lot of stress. And then do you have any evidence that does not support the thought?
I guess like I was fine up until this past year. So like I don't really know like what has like me triggered so much. But yeah, like before I started like working that job, like I was like more happy like in my undergrad, and like once I kind of like got out and started working, I felt kind of like bad. So like I don't know, before like I worked that job, kind of like I just want to get back to like that. So like I was just like, I don't know, I guess like maybe I was like making more time for myself. Like I didn't take things on that I like couldn't. I felt like I was just like taking too much on, so I was kind of like doing it to myself almost. But yeah, so I'm trying to think what else.
Let's move on to the alternative thought. So that's kind of what we did before with the distortion. So if you want, I can start off, or do you have a point?
Yeah, so I guess the alternative thought would be like kind of like I will be okay, and like I've always been okay. Like I don't have to put myself back into that like situation or like settle for something that's gonna create such like a drastic and negative impact on my life.
So like reminding yourself like you can get through whatever, you've already gone through a lot and you've made it past. And just what we touched upon before, like that positive self-talk, like you're a hardworking young woman, you will find your dream job. you're taking the right steps towards it. So
Yeah.
so yeah, like I said, I will provide this with you for homework as well. And I can also provide you, I'm going to provide you with a bunch of sheets. You don't have to do them all. I want you to pick whichever one is right for you because everyone's different. This one, last sheet, we don't have to necessarily all go through it, but I like this one because it has your thoughts, behavior, emotions, and then the bodily sensations, and then you see how they all connect to one another, and then it helps you with challenging and coming up with a new appropriate adaptive thought. So are you feeling okay about our session?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to like doing the homework and trying to like figure out how I can sustain this like more positive self-talk and just trying to challenge my thoughts. So yeah, I found today really helpful.
Okay, so thank you for coming to visit me today. I feel like we're gonna make a lot of progress, and just remember with any like maladaptive or thought that you have that like triggers you to feel upset, just remember you can always restructure that thought, and I'll just keep providing you with different tools to see which one is best for you.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Holly. Okay, bye.
Bye.